Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, friends, and to our very dear Professor Conroy Cupido. I must admit that I have never quoted Bono. So this is a first for me, what you will do for your friends. Bono once said, music can change the world because it can change people. I'm a science educator standing here with this very distinguished music audience. And when Conroy asked me to say a few words on this marvelous celebration of his flourishing career, I was both honored and terrified. I probably wrote 10 drafts of my speech until I stumbled upon this Bono quote. It struck a chord with me personally, but I also realized that Bono, the stage name of Sir Paul David Hewson, shares so much with our own Professor Conroy Cupido, as I will point out later. I want to take the older part of the audience back to the year 1979, the year in which Conroy was born, by the way. It was also apartheid South Africa, so who would have thought that he would later become one of my closest friends? Liberation songs received attention in the Oval Office recently, as we all know. However, I want to show how Afrikaans music also campaigned against apartheid. I was a standard 8 now, grade 10 schoolboy, who already received his South African Defence Force number, which is still engraved in my soul, 7930244BG. It was the time of Afrikaner national symbols and a live discourse on the rooi gevaar, the red danger, and the swart gevaar, the black danger. It was also the year when one of my favorite artists, Larika Rauch, made a debut. Her first LP contained several tracks that were immediately banned by the South African Broadcast Corporation because of its poignant lyrics and anti-apartheid sentiments. She and artists such as Pieter Dirk Uys, Amanda Strydom, and Johannes Kerkorrel also contributed to the heydays of Afrikaans cabaret, or as Henny Oukamp called it, beskaafde protes. For this schoolboy who grew up in a very conservative environment, it was a pinnacle moment. I realized that there were other people who shared my beliefs. Many years later, in 2016, Lorica received the Order of Ikhamanga for the role that her music played in sensitizing people about these social ills. And Conroy, Lorica said I should give her heartfelt congratulations to you. She's a friend of Conroy. I want to quote a verse from one of Lorica's songs, Hot Gates. Balaclava, Austerlitz, Belsen, Buchenwald, Auschwitz, Nagasaki, Versailles, Armageddon, Thermopylae. There's another song that will be sung. There's another bell that must be rung. There's another city, I've been told, where the streets are paved with gold. The power of music. Music became the medium through which people expressed their anger with the apartheid regime. It also gave hope. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow stated it so eloquently: music is the universal language of mankind. Bono, you are right. Music can change the world because it changed people. There are striking similarities between Bono and Prof. Conroy Cupido. Firstly, both fall under the star sign Taurus, born in May. Taurus is ruled by Venus, the enchanting planet that governs love and beauty. And although Conroy is an opera singer and Sir Paul David Hewson, the lead singer of the rock band U2, they both make the world a better place, not only through their music, but also through their work as human rights activists. We all know Bono as an activist fighting against poverty and AIDS. Conroy is also an activist for the rights of the marginalized. When Prof. Robert Balfour left the NWU, Conroy took over as the chairperson of the Gender Benefit Network, which, amongst others, focus on the rights and well-being of the LGBTQ+ spectrum. Like Bono, Conroy's career is filled with wonderful achievements. Conroy was the first South African to obtain a doctor in musical arts degree in vocal performance and opera by the University of North Texas. Conroy has performed with many international opera companies. Conroy's work is proof that music is a universal language that transcends borders, cultures, and generations. It was the Hand Paulus who said, "Opera is the ultimate art form. It has singing and music and drama and dance and emotion and story." Professor Cupido invests so much in his students. I had the privilege of attending concerts where Conroy students got the opportunity to show their talents to the world. Many of his students perform on the international stage today. One example is a soprano, Yulisa Ninkwetana, who made her international debut in Verdi's Rigoletto in the UK in 2022. Professor Conroy Cupido, it is a privilege for all of us to be part of this special celebration today. Your work and your humanity inspires all of us. To get back to Bono, the only thing that should still be accomplished in your career is that royal knighthood. We salute you. Thank you.
Sure, Joseph, now I must do the boring stuff. Colleagues, so I am standing in for Prof. Dumi Moyo, our Executive Dean, who is on an international visit with our Vice-Chancellor. He didn't have a choice to go, but I said I'm very happy to take his place tonight, Prof. Conroy. It's really a privilege. So I have the privilege to tell you about all the academic achievements of Prof. Conroy, things that we as a faculty is very, very proud of Conroy. So Prof. Conroy Cupido completed a music degree at Stellenbosch University, and we will forgive you for that, Conroy. A master's in music degree and artist certificate at Southern Methodist University in Dallas, Texas. And he was also the first South African to complete a doctorate degree in vocal performance, which was conferred at the University of North Texas in 2009. In 2024, he was awarded the Master of Arts in Positive Psychology from Northwest University with distinction. I like to say that at graduations, the students beam when you say that, with distinction. He has performed roles in operas, oratorios, has sung in many recitals in South Africa, the United States, the United Kingdom, and also in Italy. He has also been published in peer-reviewed journals. His research mainly concerns music, emotion, positive psychology, and well-being. He is an NRF-rated, C2-rated researcher. He's president of the South African chapter of the National Association of Teachers of Singing, a director on the board of Cape Town Opera, where he chairs the strategy committee. He has also served as interim vice chair. And he is, of course, the director of our School of Music at Northwest University in the Faculty of Humanities. Prof. Cupido has contributed to several scholarly publications and is the author of the book chapter Enhancing Spirituality Through Music Education in the New Apostolic Church, published by Peter Lang. He served as editor and principal author of the book Music, Art and Emotion, Depictions of the Night Inspired by Romantic Art Song. That was published by IHOSIS in 2022. He has presented papers at both national and international conferences, and in 2013 he was nominated as a South African ambassador for the Cleveland Foundation's intercultural exchange program, Creative Fusion, in the USA. He is a passionate collector of fine art and an amateur artist himself. I have not seen that artist yet, Conroy. He has curated exhibitions for the Northwest University Gallery and the Art Club National Arts Festival, a man of many talents. Alongside colleagues, he received 3 CakeNet Fiesta nominations during his tenure at Northwest University, and of course something that we are very proud of this year, he received at the Art Club Festival production he conducted in 2024, he won the Fiesta for the best achievement in classical music. And as we all know, that is quite a big achievement. During his studies abroad, he was awarded the Sue Johnson Prize for Best Male Opera Singer, and he was a finalist in the National Opera Association Voice Competition and this, I hope I can pronounce this correctly, Conroy, Shreveport, is that correct? Opera Singer of the Year competition. He was awarded many merit-based scholarships for international study, including the Oppenheimer Memorial Trust Bursary, the National Arts Council of South Africa Award, the Skoolmeyer Foundation Bursary, the Dean's Camerata Opera Scholarship from the University of North Texas, and the Bruce Foote Foundation Bursary. I'm out of breath now. He is currently a full professor, and that's what we're celebrating tonight at our university. He teaches applied voice, vocal pedagogy, vocal literature, Italian and French diction. His students have won major competitions, such as the Articafia Musicanto competition, the Philip Moore competition, the Mimi Kurze singing competition, and the UNISA National Singing Competition. They've also been finalists and semi-finalists in the Belvedere International Singing Competition, the Hertogenbosch Singing Competition in Amsterdam. The competition in Finland, the Kalina Wisniewskaja International Opera Singers Competition, the Stenhammar Competition in Sweden, the Samro Singing Competition, and the Emmerich Smola Förderpreis Competition in Germany. They have performed at the Royal Opera House, Covent Garden, La Scala, Milan, Opera North in UK, Utah Opera, and also the Staatsoper unter den Linden in Berlin, the Wuppertal Opera House, the Tether Chemnitz, the Staatstheater Meiningen, Cape Town Opera, and in the Nordrhein-Westfalen Opera Studio in Germany. In 2013, he was awarded the prestigious award for teaching excellence from Northwest University, receiving an A rating. And in 2017, he was awarded 2 Institutional Research Excellence Awards for creative outputs. So this, as you see, I am out of breath because it's such a list of long achievements, Conroy, and I know this is definitely not all of it. But I think what is most important, that it's not just about your achievements, but that we also see the achievements in your students. So congratulations. I just want to say something. You know, we have a beautiful university anthem, and we always hear it at graduations and functions. But when I heard it tonight, you knew we were in the School of Music. It was absolutely beautiful. So this makes the evening just more special. Conroy, we are very much looking forward to tonight. Congratulations from our faculty side.
Phew. Prof. Joseph de Beer, thank you for that exquisite welcome. Prof. Myrna, thank you for that introduction. Esteemed guests, it is my pleasure to welcome you to my inaugural lecture, where I explore how singing, and more broadly, music, can serve as a vehicle for flourishing. In times of global crisis, humanity turns to the arts, particularly music, not merely for entertainment, but for healing, hope, and connection. This truth was made especially evident during the COVID-19 pandemic. As lockdowns spread across the globe, communities found solace in shared musical expression, from balcony singing in Italy to live-streamed performances from artists worldwide. As expressed by Cupido Mas et al. 2021, music became both a coping mechanism and a source of social cohesion during isolation. Likewise, studies by Fink et al. 2021, Grano et al. 2021, and Howland and Hansen show that music offered emotional regulation, reduced anxiety, and gave structure to the daily life during lockdown. Music's historic role in times of adversity is well documented. During World War II, prisoners in concentration camps clung to music as a symbol of humanity. For instance, in Theresienstadt, Jewish musicians created orchestras and choirs, sometimes singing sacred works that offered spiritual resilience in unspeakable conditions, according to Gilbert 2005. These examples underscore music's vital role not only in survival, but in sustaining dignity and meaning. The current atrocities plaguing places like Gaza, the Ukraine, the DRC, among others, are examples of the need for ways in which individuals can mitigate trauma and languishing. I'm lucky to work in our entity, Masara, where our focus is music and well-being, and where my research on singing, positive psychology, and well-being can be nurtured. Here we also encourage students to engage on topics that demonstrate the remarkable potential for music to transform lives, Last week, under the supervision of Prof. Mignon van Vreden, School of Music Master student Nadia Geldenhuys received a degree with distinction. In a thesis entitled The Meaning of Music in the Lives of Young Adults with ADHD, a Narrative Inquiry, she explored how young adults with ADHD experience and ascribe meaning to music in their everyday lives. Using narrative inquiry, she collected and analyzed personal stories to identify recurring themes related to emotional regulation, focus, identity, and well-being. The research highlights the importance of personalized and creative approaches to music engagement in support of mental health and self-understanding. The healing nature of music was also evident in post-war periods and during collective trauma. The work of our extraordinary professor, the Reverend June Boyce-Stillman, 2016, emphasizes that music serves as a mediating force between grief and hope, providing a structure for individuals and societies to reorient their emotional compass. Music creates a space where trauma can be processed, especially through collective singing, which combines verbal, somatic, and spiritual expression into a single coherent act of meaning-making. Among the musical practices that especially foster well-being, singing holds a distinct place. Research by Kreutz et al. 2004 and Clift et al. 2008 illustrates that singing, whether alone or in a group, stimulates endorphin release, enhances respiratory function, and builds emotional connection. Singing lessons, according to Grape et al. 2002, produce measurable psychological benefits for both amateur and professional singers. Amateurs in their study reported that they experienced self-actualization during singing lessons, and their self-expression allowed them to release tension. On the other hand, professional singers demonstrated less well-being, but more arousal. I've mentioned in previous studies that because of paralysis through analysis and the perfectionism professional singers often place on themselves, this often affects their well-being negatively. Professional singers like me need to find the non-judgmental voice in our heads during performances, the voice that emanates empathy, understanding, compassion, and kindness. Personally, this is a battle that I admit I may not overcome in the foreseeable future. Nonetheless, the act of singing, especially in emotionally expressive genres such as art song or opera, becomes a dynamic form of psychological and physiological regulation. This lecture forms part of my journey as a scholar and performer dedicated to exploring the emotional depth of music. My book, Music, Art, and Emotion, Depictions of the Night inspired by a romantic art song in 2022, highlights how music becomes a container for emotion, offering listeners and performers access to transcendent experiences. In this text, I explored how both music and visual art collaborate to evoke emotional states that lead to meaning-making. Employing works by Schubert, Berlioz, Fauré, and Richard Strauss, and the visual art of Marna de Wet, Kevin Duplessis, Jean Lampin, and Elna Venter. Each artist interpreted the theme of night through mediums that heightened the emotional density of romantic art song. One of the analytical tools used was the GEMS model, the Geneva Emotional Music Scale, developed by Zentner et al. In 2008, which categorizes musically induced emotions such as wonder, transcendence, nostalgia, tenderness, and joyful activation. The GEMS framework allows us to consider not only the musical and technical features of compositions, but also their affective potential. For instance, Schubert's Erlkönig draws upon rhythms, repetition in the piano part, dynamic variation, and a psychologically unstable poetic text to evoke fear, sadness, and existential despair. Conversely, Berlioz's La Spectre de la Rose pairs lush orchestration with a gently floating vocal line to capture posthumous longing and nostalgia. These emotional responses are not incidental. They are central to music's capacity to generate meaningful and transformative experience. The model aligns with theories of musical empathy and embodied cognition, which posit that listeners do not passively receive music, but are physically and emotionally moved by its structures. The field of positive psychology offers a compelling framework for understanding how music, and especially singing, can promote flourishing. Seligman, 2012, outlines 5 pillars of well-being in his PERMA model. Music activates all 5 domains. Positive emotion, singing can induce joy, serenity, and optimism. Engagement, learning repertoire and mastering vocal technique require intense focus, which often produces flow. Relationships, singing in ensembles or receiving feedback from a teacher fosters trust and social bonding. Meaning, repertoire often touches existential themes: love, loss, transcendence. Accomplishment, performing music can lead to achievement and pride. Flow theory, introduced by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi in 1990, is particularly relevant. Flow describes a state of deep absorption in an activity that is both challenging and intrinsically rewarding. In my work with singers, I often observe this when students perform repertoire that resonates emotionally and technically. The interplay between structure, expressiveness, and meaning allows them to enter a state of heightened awareness, a moment where the self dissolves into the act of singing. Peak experiences, transcendence, and positive emotions all manifest when one is in flow. If one intentionally tries to engage in activities that lead to the kind of flow experience that ultimately promotes self-actualization, then singing, or in my case, as evidenced in previous research, listening to music serves as the vehicle, the ideal vehicle for this purpose. Transcendence is another key component of positive psychology and refers to experiences that lift individuals beyond the ordinary, connecting them with something greater. Emmons and McCulloch, 2003, and Boyce-Stillman, 2016, argue that music can evoke a liminal state where personal and collective transformation occur. This is particularly evident in choral settings or operatic performances, where shared aesthetic experience unifies audiences and performers. In my music, art, and emotion research project, Marna de Wet reported transcendental experiences when listening to Berlioz's art song, Le Spectre de la Rose, that culminated in the beautiful painting pictured, and now that hangs in my house. In my own journey as a teacher of classical singing, I've come to understand the studio not merely as a technical space, but as a site of emotional and even spiritual cultivation. It is shaped by breath, body, and psyche. As such, the act of singing draws upon the totality of a person's lived experience. To unlock the transformative potential of singing, the teacher must create a space of psychological safety and empathic responsiveness. This is where the role of the self-actualized teacher becomes critical. As explored in my own forthcoming book chapter on self-actualized teaching, such an educator embodies authenticity, empathy, gratitude, hope, and emotional intelligence, modeling these qualities for students while nurturing them in pedagogical practice. The singing teacher must not only correct pitch or diction, but must also attune to the emotional needs of the listener, guiding them towards a deeper connection with the text and the music. Informed by Maslow's 1943 concept of self-actualization and Rogers' 1969 theory of unconditional positive regard, This pedagogical approach affirms the student's intrinsic worth and fosters a relationship built on trust and mutual respect. When learners feel emotionally supported, they are more likely to take artistic risks, open themselves to deeper expression, and engage in the meaning-making process that singing requires. This is particularly important in the context of classical vocal repertoire, where emotional intensity is often woven into the melodic and harmonic structure of the music. In my experience, working through art song and operatic arias allows students to grapple with themes of love, loss, longing, and transcendence in ways that both refine their technical abilities and expand their personal horizons. I would like to draw your attention now to the 3 arias that will be performed by soprano Non Ribello Sukwana during this lecture. Signora Ascolta from Turandot by Puccini, Si, Mi chiamano Mimi from La Bohème, also by Puccini, and Je dis que rien ne m'épouvante from Carmen by Bizet. Each of these works offers a window into human vulnerability, longing, and the search for connection, all themes that align closely with positive psychology's emphasis on meaning, emotion, and transcendence. In Signora Ascolta from Turandot, the character Liu pleads for the life of Prince Calaf. The aria is brief, yet emotionally saturated. Set in G-flat major, the melody is lyrical and pleading, supported by harmonic suspensions and subtle orchestral textures that mirror her desperation and devotion. The simplicity of the line draws attention to vocal purity and legato, requiring the singer to deliver emotional restraint within technical precision. In practice sessions, and if the soprano is lucky in performances, this dual demand often produces a state of flow where the singer is wholly immersed in the expressive moment, as supported by Csikszentmihalyi. Notwithstanding, listening to these 2 arias by Puccini have often evoked flow and transcendence in my own experience. Si mi chiamano Mimi from La Bohème introduces us to a fragile young woman recounting her life and dreams. Mimi's narrative of both ordinary and luminous. She embroiders flowers and waits for spring. The aria's arc, moving from modest self-description to hopeful yearning, and is supported by an increasingly expansive melodic contour. The emotional vulnerability in this aria allows the singer and audience to connect through shared humanity. When well prepared, performances of this piece can create transcendent aesthetic experiences for listeners, what Gabrielson and Lindstrom 2010 terms strong experiences with music. In Je dis que rien ne m'épouvante from Carmen, Micaela expresses courage in the face of danger, invoking divine protection. Bizet's orchestration includes tremolo strings and modulating harmonies that convey inner conflict and a plea for spiritual guidance. The music and text together embody what Boyce Tillman 2016 described as a liminal state in which the performer stands between fear and faith, self and other. It is in this space of emotional threshold that transcendence often occurs. As a voice teacher, my task is to ensure that the singer has both the technical capacity and the emotional insight to access and express these dimensions. We work on breath management, phrasing, vowel purity, connection with the body, chiaroscuro, and expressive nuance, not just to sing well, but to communicate meaningfully. In addition to the solo repertoire, this lecture features a performance of Hubert Parry's I Was Glad, a choral anthem that, while steeped in liturgical tradition, resonates beyond its religious origins. Based on Psalm 122, the piece has been sung at English coronations and evokes grandeur, joy, and spiritual anticipation. What makes this work significant for this lecture is its ability to evoke a transcendent state even among listeners who may not identify as religious. The rich harmonic textures, the antiphonal calls, and the soaring melodic lines produce a physiological response: goosebumps, tears, stillness, indicators of what Panksepp 1995 called chills or peak aesthetic experiences. Boyce-Tillman 2016 argues that music has the power to create sacred space, even in secular contexts, whether one is Christian, pagan, Hindu, agnostic, or atheist. The structural features of such music, suspensions, climactic builds, sudden silences, can transport the listener into a liminal zone, a threshold where transformation is possible. This speaks again to the inclusive and universal power of music, as Joseph so wonderfully described. It does not demand a belief in any particular doctrine to move us. What it requires is presence, openness, and the willingness to be changed. Throughout this journey as a singer, teacher, and scholar, I've come to see transcendent character strengths as integral to flourishing through music. These include gratitude, hope, and an appreciation of beauty and excellence, which align closely with the values in action, or VIA, classification of character strengths by Peterson and Seligman, 2004. In teaching, gratitude manifests in the reciprocal nature of the learning experience. Students often bring their whole selves, joys, fears, insecurities, and ambitions into the lesson space. When this is honored with empathy and respect, the relationship becomes transformational. A former student of mine once noted that the safe environment we created together allowed him to trust both his voice and the process. His testimony illustrates how emotional support and gratitude are central to well-being and artistic growth, as supported by Froh et al. 2008 and our own Liesel van der Merwe in 2025. Hope is equally vital. It fuels persistence, particularly in moments when students encounter vocal setbacks or emotional doubt. Students have indicated that when they experience hope, they rebuild their confidence during difficult times. This speaks to the motivational function of hope in the context of learning and self-belief, as described by Seligman in 2012. Hope is not naive optimism, Joseph. It is a disciplined stance that holds space for future flourishing. Appreciation of beauty, meanwhile, is perhaps the most immediate and powerful force in music. Beauty arrests us. It draws us inward and outward at once, toward reflection and connection. When a student like Cupido, the lovely soprano here today, discovers a new piece that resonates deeply, or when she sings a phrase that is shaped so exquisitely that it causes silence to fall in a room, we are reminded of music's capacity to make the invisible felt. Although I do not align with institutional religion, I understand spirituality as a form of deep connectedness to self, to others, to nature, and to the transcendent. In my teaching, spirituality often emerges organically through discussions of text and interpretation, especially when students perform repertoire that contemplates love, mortality, suffering, or divinity. In Signora Ascolta, Liu's spiritual devotion is not abstract. It is made manifest through melody, dynamics, and silence. In Je dis que rien ne m'épouvante, Michaela draws on divine strength to transcend fear. When students engage with these texts, they are invited to contemplate their own beliefs and values. This is not indoctrination, but invitation, an opening toward existential reflection. Boyce-Tillman 2016 and Emmons and McCulloch 2003 describe this process as a musical spirituality, a domain where gratitude, awe, and reverence intersect. Music becomes a vessel for meaning-making, allowing students to transcend ego and enter liminal spaces of transformation. This spiritual dimension also appeared in my chapter on music in the New Apostolic Church in 2019, where I examined how communal singing fosters belonging, sacred awareness, and resilience. Music in these settings acts as both ritual and therapy. It affirms identity and renews purpose. The ideal of the self-actualized teacher is not a final destination, but a process of becoming, of striving to align inner values with outward practice. Drawing on Maslow's theory of self-actualization and more contemporary interpretations, such as my Master of Arts in Positive Psychology dissertation, I've sought to develop a teaching approach that fosters authenticity, bringing my full self into the studio, empathy, attuning to the emotional needs of students, excellence, striving for both artistic and personal growth, gratitude and humility, recognizing the privilege of guiding another's voice. In the studio, these qualities translate into specific behaviors: listening actively, offering constructive feedback, adapting to the needs of neurodiverse learners, integrating wellness check-ins into lessons, and encouraging students to reflect on how music connects with their lives. This approach resonates with findings in positive education, which emphasize the integration of character strengths, emotional intelligence, and meaning, making into teaching. It is not about perfection, but about presence, being fully with a student in the moment of learning. To conclude, this lecture has proposed that singing and music more broadly offers a powerful vehicle for flourishing. In the context of adversity, as we saw during the COVID-19 pandemic, in historical accounts of wartime singing, and in everyday life, music helps people process trauma, rebuild hope, and reaffirm their shared humanity. At a psychological level, singing activates the perma-dimensions of well-being: positive emotion, engagement, relationships, meaning, and accomplishment. Through its affective power, music enables flow, transcendence, and self-actualization, especially when guided by a teacher committed to holistic growth. Emotionally, music draws upon the architecture of the GEMS model, translating structure into feeling. Artistically, it offers both discipline and expression, a fusion that cultivates personal transformation. Spiritually, music connects us with the ineffable, with beauty, with wonder, and with each other. In a world often fragmented by noise and haste, the act of singing, slow, intentional, embodied, becomes a ritual of connection. As you listen to this evening's performances, I invite you not only to hear, but to feel, to open yourself to the stories being sung, to the spaces between the notes, to the invitation that music always extends to be moved and perhaps even changed. Thank you very much.
My name is Inaugural, and I'll be singing Senora I'm not going to be singing tonight. I'm Robert Balfour, and it's an enormous pleasure to be here as a guest of the NWU among our colleagues, Prof. Linda Duplessis, Prof. Myrna Herculine, and the faculty's leadership, many of whom are friends, but also among all our friends who are here this evening with Prof. Conroy's mom, Charmaine, and of course with the students who are the brightest stars of the school at the NWU. For many years, the tradition of opera music was considered a part of a Western canon, associated with what it meant to be participating in high culture, and by doing so to be participating in the rituals of belonging that was associated with an elite, that in turn was associated with empire, imperial practices, and the exploitative othering of marginalized groups. That the tradition was considered in that light historically, in the binary light of wealth and power, obscured the facts that many of the world's most famous composers came neither then nor indeed now, from an elite class, not from the groups that were contributing to that elite form of practice. The claim of this canon to elite status from a particular part of our globe obscured also the fact that the narratives, as we've heard about this evening in Prof. Cupido's lecture, the narratives which form the basis for so many of the operas were about transformation, cultural and gendered contestation, and did in fact themselves not originate from Western countries, neither in the form of the musical styles, and the stars that have come from this tradition over time have all emanated from our globe, not from a part of this globe. And claiming and making this art form as an art form of the people and not the making of an elite is such an important part of what Prof. Conroy Cupido has done at NWU. Conroy's work and his scholarship emanates from and contributes to that marvelous operatic tradition, but not to the elite. His work at this school and in this place attests to the freedom that delivers and its refusal of gender, class, and race stereotyping, as we see in music. The counter-impulses, contestation associated with classical opera have been well described by other scholars, ladies and gentlemen, such as Edward Said, who linked opera, imperialism, and cultural transformation in his analysis, which touched on everything from literature to opera in that famous series of lectures offered by Said to Cambridge University in 1997. I happened to be a student at the university in that year. It was not long after that he passed away from cancer. So much of what he had to say about the music was about transcendence and emotion, Conroy, about social change that comes to rest turbulently on a series of values that emerge in the music we have listened to tonight. Values such as passion, associated with injustice, despair associated with oppression, and jubilation that accompanies resistance. And the joy, of course, that comes with love as the purest expression of everything we hold dear as humans: acceptance, belonging, trust, loyalty, transcendence, and hope. There are many ancient cultural traditions which have the operatic form at their base, and there too we find these same values, for example, in the Indian Carnatic tradition of music, or the kabuki tradition of Japan. We find these same themes in the stories, the same values in different places. In contemporary South Africa, the operatic tradition of the globe has also come to be at home among us. We see it in Princess Magogo, and Winnie the Opera. Complex stories, our people, written and performed in the deep emotional complexities of both the historic and the contemporary. We've been delighted tonight, Prof. Cupido, in the account you have provided of your scholarly journey and the links between art and humanity that you have so vividly drawn for us as being essential to the human condition and as being rightfully the place of a justified and new form of scholarship. And we thank you for that tradition that you have brought alive for us this evening. Thank you, everyone.
Prof. Robert, Prof. Myrna, Prof. Herculine, Prof. Cupido, colleagues, students, it's my honor and privilege to be here tonight and congratulate Prof. Cupido on behalf of the Northwest University on this remarkable milestone in your academic and artistic journey, becoming a full professor. Now, the term full professor signifies more than an academic rank. It's a recognition of sustained excellence, of a career built on rigor, mentorship, creative output, and leadership. It's not a title, it's a testament. And I think tonight we see how it represents the culmination of years of commitment to scholarship, performance, teaching, and service. So, Prof. Cupido, I believe this is a personal as well as a professional milestone. And your journey has been nothing short of extraordinary. I mean, from your early days as a music student at Stellenbosch to your achievement as the first South African to earn a doctorate in vocational performance from the University of North Texas, you have really defined boundaries and expanded possibilities. I mean, how many people can say they sang across continents, captivated audiences in South Africa, United States, Europe, and you use your voice not just to perform, but to inspire. But I think what makes your story more compelling is how you have translated your personal journey into academia and into the future of the students. Beyond the stage and the classroom, your research really reflects an understanding of the transformative power of music. And tonight we heard it, and then we experienced it. So, and I think tonight reminds us that music is not just a sound, but it's a language. So we do not only celebrate your milestone as a full professor, we celebrate your life, dedicated to the ideals of academic and the world of art. And with that said, becoming a full professor is not just about achieving more, it's about becoming more for your students, for your colleagues, for the university, and for the world of music. So, Professor Cupido, on behalf of the Northwest University, it's my privilege to congratulate you. I also want to extend my congratulations to the faculty, Prof. Myrna. The success of every individual becomes the collective success story of the faculty. So, Professor Cupido, please remember to update your CV on the academia website, please. When I checked last night, it still says Associate Professor. So please make sure your title now reflects what many of us have long known, You are a full professor, not only in status, but in stature. Thank you.
Good evening, colleagues and friends. Prof. Cupido asked me to read the following. Thomas, thank you so much for agreeing to read this message of thanks on behalf of me. I had every intention of delivering it myself, but after much reflection, I realized that I would likely become a blubbery mess when thinking about the many extraordinary people who have shaped my life, many of whom are present here tonight. I begin with my mother, Charmaine. Thank you for nurturing my love of music and singing from an early age. With a beautiful voice of your own, you were my first champion, faithfully attending Eisteddfods, driving me to lessons and finding ways to support me in my education, even in the most challenging of times. Thank you, Mummy, for everything you have done and continue to do. To my dear friends who traveled from abroad, Dr. Bronwyn Forbey, Dr. Carol Blankenship, and Dr. Sarah Holman, your presence here and your contributions to the week's conference mean the world to me. To our special guest, Mr. Andre Schwartz, your infectious passion for teaching and inspiring the next generation is something I deeply admire. Thank you for being here. To my former colleague, Prof. Santisa Viljoen, and her husband Jos, thank you for the generous and compassionate welcome you gave me when I first arrived in Potchefstroom. To Prof. Liesel van der Merwe, your enthusiasm for research has been truly contagious and has made me a better researcher. I am so grateful for our collaboration. To Jana Mathieu, thank you for your invaluable contribution to the success of the performance tonight. Despite challenging circumstances, you are a colleague that I have come to depend on, and I am deeply thankful, not just for what you do, but for who you are. Thank you to my colleagues from the brass department, Dr. Yvonne Marie Brandt and Justin Sasman, for training our wonderful brass students heard here today. And a special word of thanks to Justin for who prepared the brass ensemble. Justin, your commitment to the school is seen and appreciated. To Dr. Jaco Meyer and Dr. Willem Venter, I have so enjoyed working with you and look forward to many more creative projects together. To Prof. Chris van Rijn, thank you for being an exceptional co-director. Sharing the responsibilities of research leadership at the School of Music with you has been an absolute pleasure. To Tinus, Antoinette, Lisa, and Thomas, you are no longer just colleagues, but cherished friends. I am so grateful for your presence in my life. To my beloved Golden Girls and Pineapples, Yusuf, Robert, Eugene, and Hein, you fill my life with laughter, joy, and deep friendship. I treasure every moment with you. To my longest-standing friends in Potch, Marna, Francois, Chris, you have shown me that family is not only given, but also chosen. Thank you for being mine. A heartfelt thanks to the Dean's Office, Prof. Dumi, in his absence, Prof. Linda, Prof. Myrna, Lucinda, Eulalia, Darlene, and to Nicolette at the School of Music for your support and coordinating tonight's celebration. To each and every one of you here tonight, know that when I typed your name on the invitation, it brought a smile to my face. You are here because you have meaning in my life and in the achievement we celebrate this evening. Thank you. Now, ladies and gents, I would love to ask you to stand for the national anthem, and after that for the procession to leave. after which you're all welcome to join us in the Suikerbos venue just across the lawn for a cocktail event, some snacks and so on.